All right, we're gonna make some bread. All right, I've got my instructions here. I printed them out from the email that I sent you to make sure I'm doing just the same thing. So first I'm going to put my 4 cups of flour in my bowl. I'm actually gonna do 50-50 whole wheat and white, since that's what you did the last time you tried it, but should be able to do it either way. That's my whole wheat flour. And then got 2 more cups of white flour, so that's 4 cups of flour altogether. All right, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of my instant yeast. This is my yeast. I've had this for a long time, and I keep it in the refrigerator. I don't actually know what kind it was. You were asking about different kinds of yeast. So there's instant yeast, and there's also, well, I guess there's active dry yeast, and then there's instant bread machine yeast. Mine is definitely something you don't have to dissolve in liquid first. I'm not sure whether it was called bread machine yeast or not. So there are different kinds of yeast that might make a difference, but only in that if you use the yeast that you have to dissolve in your liquid, your water or your buttermilk or whatever first, you would have to put it right in the liquid and then wait till it got bubbly and then add it to your flour mixture later, whereas I'm adding this directly to my flour. It doesn't matter which way I do it. But that's actually one way you could check your yeast. So if you want to know whether your yeast is working, you could put your yeast in a little bit of warm water, no hotter than 100 degrees. You could add a little, half teaspoon or something, drop of honey or brown sugar or something like that, stir it around to dissolve it, and just wait a couple of minutes. It should, within, no more than 10 minutes, you should definitely see something happening in your water. You should start to be bubbly and kind of foamy. And if it's not doing that, then your yeast is not good. So that would be one thing you could check. All right, so my yeast is in my flour. I'm gonna add some salt. I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt. There's 1.5. Okay, and next I'm going to add some honey and vegetable oil. So I'm actually going to add the oil first, because here's a trick. If you put oil in your cup and then you add your honey, it's easier to get your honey out. So 1/4 cup vegetable oil. This is a 1/4 cup measure, so I'm going to add 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. And then here's my honey. So 3/8 of a cup of honey. Hope I have enough honey. So my honey's kind of running low. Cutting it close. All right. That's 1/4 cup. Might need to loosen up my honey here somehow. Oops, got on my paper. Almost got it. I'm just gonna leave my honey upside down there, see if I can get any more out later, but if not, my bread will just be a little less sweet. And the honey helps the yeast to rise a little bit better too, but it'll still work if I don't have quite enough honey. Okay, so that's almost enough honey. And then I need, I think it's just my buttermilk. Yeah. Okay, so I've already warmed up my, this is actually kefir, but kefir, buttermilk, either one will work. It's 98 degrees right now, so that's within the acceptable range. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it. And it looks like that is all of my ingredients, so I'm gonna stir it up. I'm just gonna use the spoon as long as I can before I have to use my hands, if I can really scrape all the flour off of the side of the bowl there. Just making it into a bit of a ball, making sure I incorporate all my flour, just kind of swishing into the bottom of the bowl. Make sure I can get it all in so my dough won't be dry. Okay, this is looking pretty good and smooth. All right. Now I could have added a little bit, more liquid. If I did, I wouldn't really have to knead it quite so much like this to get into my ball, and that would also work, but I'm just gonna form it into a ball, stick it in my bowl, get my dish towel. Is this a good one? Yep. Gonna get my dish towel damp. All right, cover it up with my damp dish towel, and I'm gonna let it sit until morning, and I'm gonna stop the video for now and start it up again tomorrow and see what it looks like. Okay, so it's been about 9 hours since I started the bread to rise, and you can see that it's definitely bigger. The one on the right is the one that you watched the video of me making last night. The one on the left, I did the same thing, except I added a teaspoon of yeast instead of a quarter teaspoon. I also used maple syrup instead of honey because I was all out of honey. So the one on the left looks like it's risen a little more. It has more yeast, if that makes sense, but they've definitely both risen. You can see that the dough is sort of expanded and resting on the sides of the bowl now, and it's looking slightly mounded and puffy. I hope that's clear on the video, but it hasn't risen quite as much as I would like, so I'm going to wait a little bit longer and then we'll resume the video. All right, so my dough has risen. It's actually been too long. This is the second morning after the night that I put it into rise, but it hasn't gotten bigger since yesterday. I should not have let it rise this long. I just didn't have time yesterday, but this is about what it looked like, after probably 15, 16 hours, something like that. All right, so I'm going to take my dishcloth, put it in this is my casserole dish that I'm going to use. It's got a lid, an oven-proof lid. And put my dish towel in my dish. And take a little bit of flour, dust the bottom of my dish towel so my dough doesn't stick to it. Got my flour in my dish towel. Then take a little more flour, dust my dough just a little bit, just so I can pick it up without it sticking to my hands. It's actually not that sticky though. I'm going to gather it up, and I usually just kind of fold it under itself into this ball to make this tight surface tension on the top of my ball. Just makes a nice crust later. So I've got this ball of dough. I'm going to stick it in my dish towel. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit more flour on top so the towel doesn't stick to the dough on top, because the dough will get stickier as it's rising again. I'm going to fold my dish towel over my dough, and I'm just going to leave it like this for a couple of hours. All right, so it's been a couple of hours. I have my bread here. It's gotten a little bit bigger. I'm actually going to gently lift it out. The instructions don't say to do this, but I want to put cornmeal on the bottom of my dish. This isn't necessary. The flour on the bottom of the dish will be fine, flour from the bread, but I'm just going to put the cornmeal on to give it a nice bottom crust and prevent the sticking. So now I have my bread, and I'm just going to dump it out into my pot. So now I've got my bread in my pot, and I'm going to put the top on the pot, and then I'm going to go and put it in my oven, which I don't know that you can see. The oven's in the back. Okay, here we go. All right, and I just set my timer for 30 minutes. So when that goes off, I'll take the lid off, cook it for another 15, and then I will tap it to see whether it sounds hollow. So we'll get to that video next. Well, apparently I forgot to set the timer on my oven, so this bread is definitely done, a little too done. You can hear that it sounds hollow, and it would sound just the same way if I had taken it out at the right time. I should have taken it out a little bit too soon so that I could show you what it would sound like if it wasn't done, but in any case, voila, I have some cooked bread, and hopefully it's not too burned for us to eat it.